Hello, welcome to another edit. Anyone who's seen the last two knows how this works, where I'm going to go through a photo of mine and how I would post-process it. Except today we're doing something a little bit different. Previous two have been concert photos, so closer to low light, portraits, that type of stuff. Today is the exact opposite. I was up in Pennsylvania with some family last weekend and went out in the snow. Not while it was snowing, but it had snowed the nights prior. So it's very bright and it's a landscape. The photo in question was taken on this little guy, the Sony 20mm f1.8G on the A7 IV, which is what I am filming on, edited in Lightroom. So I'll walk you guys through the composition, what worked, what didn't work, because as it turns out, there's some that didn't work, but we learn from it. And how I would post-process it, to send it off either to a print or to Instagram or whatever, because I don't have separate styles for each. I just have my style. So without further ado, let's get to it. Oh, we're here at the editing. We have Lightroom open in front of us. Well, you can kind of see that. And we have a little bit of a new angle going on. I was using the 35 last time, using the 50 now. I like the little bit tighter look. We have a couple old Canon film cameras there, an A1 and an AE1. Yeah, it's my set in my bedroom. So let's get to it. I have a little Wacom tablet that I just got the other day. It's the smallest and cheapest one they make, but I'm trying it out, so we'll see. This is not the photo we're going to be editing. This was another one of the bridge on a little hike that we went to. It's a rail bridge, New Jersey Transit. I don't know if they own the lines, but the Port Jarvis line goes not too far from here and does not continue to this point, but it's the same right of way. Anyway, this is the photo we will be editing. This was a waterfall a little bit earlier on the hike. Let's go through what works and what doesn't work. I like this bit in the center, this rock formation. I like this down below to sort of lead you in, but it's not as nice as I thought it was sort of in camera on location. Partially is because you can see here there's some crushed snow and ice. I was perilously trying to not fall in and trying not to have the camera fall in, so I'm going to cut myself a little bit of slack. So I think first things first, we have to crop this. I'm normally one for getting it right in camera, but with the A7IV, we have 33 megapixels to work with. We might as well use them. I think a square would do us well here. That way we can cut out some of the shadow in the corner and cut out some of the sky up top. Maybe bring it in because I want our rock formation here to be pretty front and center. So let's see how that looks. Now we can maybe use a little bit more foreground. Something like that I think works, because that way you're really being, funneled in by this bit here into the chaos of the middle leading up to here. So let's go with that. I don't really know where I want to go with this edit. This is all very much real time. I don't have this planned out. So we'll see where we get to. I think I'm going to cool it down a little bit white balance wise. And then maybe bring out a little bit of magenta. If we reset that, and if we drag it to green, I don't really love either, but maybe a little bit. We can always adjust. It adds a little bit of a purple to the ice and snow here. Exposure, I think, is generally good. It maybe can go up a little bit, and then we can bring some more contrast in. We can bring the highlights down just a little bit. We can definitely bring those shadows up. Whites, as you can see, a lot of snow. Adjusting the whites does a lot. Black levels, bring them up a little bit. And whites, I think we can bring down. Dehaze, we need to be a little bit careful. You crank it up too much, it looks kind of gross in here because there's a lot of mist and stuff that it's getting rid of. So if we're going to do that, and if we add, a little bit too much the other way, it just looks like a mess. So I think we can maybe do a little bit of dehaze, but bring down the clarity. That will give, everything a little bit of a... It's very subtle. I'll turn it up so you can see what I mean. To say 40, and then it gives everything it removes micro contrast, right? So it gives everything a little bit of a glow. And then normally if I reduce clarity, I would like to add about an equal amount of texture just to bring some of that detail back. It's very subtle, but can see it. As for our tone curve here, I have a few presets that I made. You know, some of these like completely matting out the shadows is a little bit too strong. Something like really amping up the colors is a little bit too strong. So we're just going to raise the black level a little bit. You can see, especially in here, it just, you know, gives you a little bit of that matting without overdoing it. And with that, we can maybe raise the shadows a little bit more. Okay, color is really where we're going to need to do some work because it's kind of monotone. We have some yellows, which I don't love in the water here. We have some really actually nice earthy brown tones with the stone and the dirt and everything underneath the coursing river. We have some greens here and there, but not a ton. Then we have a very little amount of blue, but I would like to accent that, at least in the water, right? So what I'm going to try and do is maybe bring saturation on this down a little bit. Not completely. We don't want it to just be pure white because that looks weird and unnatural. But we'll bring it down a little bit. Let's see if we drag our... See, now since we have a little bit more purple, we can drag a little bit back out. So that way the ice doesn't look purple. We can still have a little bit of a shift in the overall image without the ice down here looking purple. Again, with the composition, I don't love that we have shadow here as well. I wish this went all the way across to sort of give us a nice true, you know, V over the whole composition. If I was not panicking, trying not to drop the camera in the water, perhaps I would have done that. But now we have this photo. I know where this location is. I can go back there. It's not too difficult to get to. You know, we learn from it. We can take a better photo next time. But that's neither here nor there. This is what we got to work with, so we're going to work with it. You know, let's see if we can make them green, make them more red. I like that leaving it the same. Don't mind me as I'm just messing with sliders here. Yeah, we still have some blues in the snow. So what we can do is we can make that a little bit brighter and a little bit more saturated. Really bring out the you know, cool tones, especially if we make it less purple and really, you know, bring up the blue. We don't want to overdo it. We could also drag the hue of the purples to be a little bit closer to blue, but then drag the blues. Okay. I think that looks, you know, okay for now. I was messing around a little bit before with the color grading. I actually really liked having the mid-tone set to a cooler color. It's sort of my style. I'm not a huge fan of very warm images. You know, sometimes in like a golden hour situation, it really fits, but me generally, I tend to gravitate towards the cooler tones. And now I think with the blues here, we're actually missing a little bit of yellow, so maybe we can bring some of that back. That way we have a little bit of a contrast here, and then maybe in the highlights, since we have our midtones in blue, we can add just a smidge, you know, a very low saturation number to our highlights here. And you know, you can see with this on, it's just a little bit, you know, it's very subtle, where the yellow is there in the highlights, and the midtones are a little bit cooler. Maybe we can actually, if we reset this, what does that do for us? Yeah, see, it just adds a little bit of yellow to the whole image. So maybe we want to add a little bit of blue, but even less, maybe just something like a 6, just very subtle. You can see it in, you know, in the waterfall here, and then I'm keeping an eye on the foreground. It's a very minor adjustment, but one that I think that is important for the color balance. Then shadows, I don't know if we need to add too much. We can maybe add like a little bit of a darker blue. I don't love how that looks, or maybe sort of like a nice, I'm going to do the oversaturated here. That way we can really see what it's affecting in the image. You know, maybe like a teal here just to add a little bit, you know, 5 or 6. And I think turning this on made everything a little bit more balanced. If you do this, the yellow punches a little bit too much, and this looks a little bit too stark white. Turn the color grading on. You have a little bit of the cool tones here, a little bit of the warm tones here, and it sort of flows through the image. Again, it's my opinion. You know, this is how I would edit it, right? If you disagree, you know, I would unironically love to see, other people's takes, right? How would you edit this photo? Would you maybe lean into those teal tones and go for a sort of orange and teal look? Would you make it even more subtle? Would you not even touch the color grading? I don't know. I'm always curious, always trying to learn. That's how you learn. So, well, of course, we forgot to turn on our camera corrections. There's no real CA here. You can check it, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. Not with f18 on this lens, on the 1.8. Really stopped down to get everything in focus. I thought I might have needed to focus stack this, but I didn't, which is nice. And that's it. That's a very basic sort of quick edit for global. Now we get into the fun that is masking. The first things first, I want to do a little bit of a vignette, right? The focus of our image is the foreground snow, as well as the rock formation with the ice and the waterfalls. So we want to, darken the areas around that. I think we can make this a little bit wider. Then we can just, I like looking in the top left over here while doing this, so you can get a real sort of view of how things are working. Sometimes if you're looking at it 100%, you don't necessarily see, all of the finer details. So I think something like that, we're overlapping a little bit, which is okay, because we want, we want this stuff here to not be darkened. We want just, just the corners. So we can maybe even scooch this over a little bit. Okay, and I think that works for that. And now I think we can get into just some dodging and burning here. So we have, a built-in one, a dodge and a lighten. And what we're going to do is, this is where we get our trusty tablet pen, and we're going to draw in on some of the highlights. Now granted, I have not used this pen a lot, so I am not sure how good I'm going to be at it. We can turn our overlay on to see where exactly we're painting here. You want to fill in this area. You can also do this in Photoshop with like a soft light blend. That's something that I've seen some people use. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I can give it a try one day, but today is not that day. So we just want to grab just the highest of the highlights here, right? Along our very, very bright areas. Why are we not drawing in? And we'll see. Maybe I wasn't using the actual tip of the pen I was using. It doesn't want to work. We'll just do it with the mouse. So be it, tablet. Or perhaps I was holding a button. Ah, there we go. We can erase that. But now we got it working. So yeah, then we just gonna kind of want to, just do the edges here. We're really struggling with the pen. Just the very, very brightest parts of our snow here, just painted in. We can do some of the ice as well. Now we're gonna have to be careful, because a quarter of a stop, the plus 0.25 is pretty bright, and this snow is already very bright. And we can go down to our other edge here. So basically we just want to try and grab all of the stuff that was naturally sort of in the sunlight to accentuate that it was catching, the sun. And then we're going to do the same, but the other way with shadow to really add a little bit of sort of localized contrast. And we'll be able to do some with the water as well. Just along the edge here, and then we can grab some of the water in here. We don't want to go too high, but we can just grab some of the stuff in the lip here. And then maybe a little bit of our leading edge of snow. We don't want to go over into the shadow. And then I just want to get some of the more textured parts of the water here. Zoom to 50%. You know, this stuff here. The stuff that really is going to be, you know, the focus of the viewer when looking at this photograph. You know, the rest of the sort of stuff we can let be. And just do a little bit here. Okay. Now we can just do some of the bottom. It should mask out. Auto masking should grab some of the edge. And then we can make it a little bit smaller. Then I'll just do this with the mouse because it's quick and just do some right here. Okay, so that's what we have masked out. We could do some in the background and everything, but I'm not too concerned with that currently. Okay, so you can see it just makes it pop just a little bit, and we can maybe add a little bit more to help diffuse it. I want to add a little bit of contrast. We don't want to add too much because then you can see it really sticks out like a sore thumb. We're just going to go maybe, you know, in the 15 to 20 range. Maybe make it a little bit brighter near a third of a stop. Something like that. And then I think what we can do is just do a little bit on the water here. And then a little bit on the water here. There we go. You know, we don't want to do too much. Maybe just a little bit back here, a little bit on the ice. You know, you can keep going for days as you see more and more, but really it's about getting the important parts, the parts that you want your viewer to focus on. You know, something like this would work. Again, I'm faster with the mouse for now, but still getting used to, you know, the tablet. And then what we can do is if we really want to refine it, we can intersect it with the luminance range. Right, so now we can drag all the darker parts out of it, and you can see it's really refining and really only grabbing the brightest of the bright here. And this is really nice because that way, you know, we're doing the waterfall here, but we're not catching, you know, the darker strands here. We're just getting the brighter bits, which is what we want. And that allows you to be a little bit more loosey-goosey with what you're highlighting here, just because it's only going to grab the brighter values anyway. So if you do all of this, you know, it's not going to grab this part here because it's not bright enough anyway. So it gives you a little bit of leeway, and you can really quickly, you know, just go buck wild drawing. Okay. Let me turn our overlay off. I think that does pretty good. So now we can do the opposite. Brush and set it to a burn. And we can really just grab the shadows. There's not too many in this frame. You know, we have some a little bit here, some behind, you know, the water here, some, you know, over here near the top. Really drag us in. And that might do us, you know. We can make this a little bit smaller and really get the fine parts of the shadow here. We want to do this part of the rock formation. That is definitely for sure. Since we did the front side, we have to do the back side. Give them equal attention. And I think, you know, we're not going to worry about all this stuff in the background. We can do some of it, right? But that's not the focus of our frame. So we don't want to spend too much time and energy doing it because we're darkening it with the vignette anyway. So we don't, for example, this highlight here, we don't want this to pop because that will drag us away from our main subjects here. So we can turn the overlay off and see what we did there. If we turn all of the masks off, you know, you can see it really, you know, makes things stand out. We can do the same here. We can intersect this with another luminance range and do the opposite. Oop. Except our luminance range didn't wanna work here. So, not too worried about it. A lot of this stuff is relatively new in Lightroom. So let me actually bring some of the contrast out. And then same thing, about a third of a stop. And I think, you know, turn them off, turn them on. I think we're looking pretty good. So now we can take this into Photoshop proper. I don't know why the luminance range wasn't working, but you know. Brush, intersect. There we go. Okay, so now we can do the opposite, where we drag the brighter parts down, right? And we're only really catching. See, I like this because it's more in the shadows, but if you wanted to affect sort of the slightly darker parts, you can feather that quite nicely. Okay, we can turn our overlay off here. You know, you can see it really makes things darker. Okay, now we can take this, finally we can take this into Photoshop and do some finishing touches. It's very easy, just right click, open in Photoshop. It'll open, hopefully. Sometimes it doesn't like to open. That's a me issue though, that's not a Photoshop issue. Ugh. Okay, first things first, I want to clean up a lot of this junk. There was a lot of sort of plant matter. You know, I don't know what it is, little seeds, little leaves, whatever, that we want to clean up. So this is where we can go with our spot healing brush, make it a little bit bigger, and just start, you know, erasing stuff out. So let's hit the fast forward yet again as the cops come for me. They don't like me removing stuff, and we'll do this. Okay, and now we're looking pretty clean. I didn't necessarily need to get rid of the ones over here, but you know, if I'm doing it, I might as well do it. And I think we're looking pretty good. You know, can maybe fill in. These are just holes in the snow, but the contrast can be a little bit distracting, so we can maybe just fill some of them in. That one, wait, when you're zoomed out, you know, you don't necessarily notice them. And now what we can do is we can duplicate this background. Duplicate. We're going to have two layers, just like anyone who saw the last video knows the drill. We're going to have a sharpen layer, and then we're going to have a glow layer. I like to put the glow layer on top, turn it off, because we're going to do the sharpen layer first. So sharpen layer, high pass filter, something like 4 to 5 pixels, something like that. You know, 4.5 looks okay. And then we'll just soft light. Now, it doesn't look like it did anything. Maybe not at first. But if you toggle it on and off, you can see that it really adds just a little bit of sharpening in areas of contrast without really introducing, you know, too many artifacts, too much noise, etc. You can really see it on the rocks here. I think it adds a nice bit of detail. Now we're going to get rid of that detail. Not really, but we're going to make it glow a little bit. So we have our glow layer here, turn that on, then I'll hide the sharpening because it's above it. And then we can just do a Gaussian blur. It's a 33 megapixel sensor. The picture's not that, but because it's cropped, but you get the idea, it'll be fine. Image adjustments, brightness and contrast. We're gonna crank up the brightness. We want this to be maybe about 45, and then contrast, maybe about 60. We can maybe back off these just a little bit. We're going to decrease the opacity. Now we need to take a look, right? We have it on the whole image. Do we like it on the whole image? I'm not so sure. I definitely like it on the water. But what we can do then is we can add a layer mask. Switch to black. Switch to our, where is our brush? I can just hit B for brush. There we go. And if we don't want it in certain areas, like in the background here, we can just paint it out. You can see in the bottom on the layer, it's being removed from here. So, you know, we don't necessarily want it on the sides here. In the front, I don't know if we need it except for maybe on the edge. I don't know if I like it on the water. I'm not sure I actually like it on the rock here. No, I think it's better without it. So then maybe we can get rid of it on the snow down here in the bottom. Just trying to make sure we're all filled in. Yeah, I like having the detail on the ice. So we can maybe get rid of it here, really bring out the little bits of shadow. But on the water, it definitely works. And I will say one thing I am happy I got right in this composition was I think the shutter speed was good. I believe it's a quarter of a second, because you still get, you know, you get the water flowing, you get some of that smoothness here, but you still have some of that texture and detail, you know, and some of the chaos here. I really like this detail here. I'm not sure I like this here, but I don't think it's worth the trouble to remove it, as it is, you know, part of the scene. But let's turn this on and off. On and off, and on and off. I think we can actually get away with masking out a little bit, you know, more over here. The easier way to do this, honestly, would have been to have everything invert the entire mask and then just paint on what I wanted. But, you know, at the time I didn't realize I was going to be removing this much, so it is what it is. You know, no harm, no foul, really. It's just a little bit of extra work. All right, on and off, then on, then off. So it's mostly focusing on the water, and I think we can bring that down just a little bit, maybe 12 or even 10%. We just want it to be very subtle. And I think that looks good. So what we can do is we can just close this. Do you want to save? Of course we want to save. That will shoot it back into Lightroom as a TIFF. And we can then compare to before our finishing touches and after. I think, you know, the improvements are subtle, but they are there and they are improvements. So from here, we can just export on out to wherever we're going, wherever we're exporting, you know, just right click export. And here is the finished image. Enjoy. And thanks for watching.